welcome to episode 129 of Authors Afterword. On this podcast, I talk to an author about one, occasionally more, of their books in detail. And if you find yourself enjoying today's episode, do share it with your friends. So, I'm Charlie Place, and joining me today is Julie Kagawa, the YA author of, to mention a few, the Iron Face series, the Blood of Eden trilogy, and the Talon saga. We'll be talking today about her latest book, the first in a new trilogy, Fateless. At a very young age, Sparrow was found by Varn and initiated into the Thieves' Guild of Kovass, the desert-like city in the kingdom. Sparrow spends her days jumping from roof to wall in order to take items from their original owners. But one day, Sparrow is tasked by the Circle, the secretive leaders of the guild, to snatch the tapestry of the world from the city's Temple of Fate. It's a blasphemous task as it holds the fates of everyone in the world, but the Circle have threatened to kill Varn if she does not do it. It will be the beginning of a journey Sparrow would never have conceived of, leading her deep underground, across the sea made of sand, and seeing things arise that were assigned to history. Hi, Julie.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
It's wonderful. Can you tell us first off about the video game inspirations for this book?
Yes. Fateless was heavily inspired by the Assassin's Creed series, and it's one of my favorite video game series of all time. I love the idea of an open world where you are running across rooftops, you're parkouring from tower to tower, but I loved the assassination part where, just blend into the crowds and become invisible, and then you take out your target without anybody knowing you were there and alerting any guards and just making your way out invisible. So that aspect was very cool to me, but it was also, I fell in love with the assassins themselves, everything about them. I loved the Assassin's Creed, for lack of better words, the guild, the tenants. I even loved the outfits. I love the white and red Assassin's Creed outfits. I even have an Assassin's Creed hoodie that I bought, and I never wear it because it's white. It would get terribly stained, but I love the clothing, and even through the series, their clothing kind of changed, but it just kind of stayed true to the original. I even loved the original storyline, which was terribly complex and mind-bending, but everything about Assassin's Creed was an inspiration. The cities, the leaping from the tallest towers into the hay bales. And I just love that series. And I like Thieves and Assassins are two of my favorite concepts ever. Kind of made sense to blend them into a book.
You say about the hay bales. I really failed when I started to play Assassin's Creed some years ago. I literally couldn't get out of the first bit, the fog. So in researching your book and making sure I knew Assassin's Creed better, I got my boyfriend to do it. And we just got to the part with the hay bales, so I can see that exactly, yeah. I want to ask, have you ever played Splinter Cell? Because a lot of what you're saying is kind of similar.
Haven't. Is it very similar?
It's got that whole kind of assassinating people and being quiet about it. Yeah.
Yeah, I do. I played Hitman, Thief, the stealth games. I love stealth games.
Yeah, you'd like Splinter Cell, I think.
I'll have to check it out.
Were there any other video game inspirations in it? If I say straight away, I know that Prince of Persia is part of it. That's a game that I know more. Mm-hmm. Was there also some Tomb Raider in it or anything?
No, though Tomb Raider does have some aspects of Tomb Raider, the old Tomb Raider, not the newer one. But Prince of Persia I didn't actually play the first Prince of Persia. I watched my best friend play the first Prince of Persia, and the storyline was captivating, and I loved the storyline. But I also loved, the Prince of Persia had the same running along walls and parkour and fighting sand creatures, and that was very heavily inspiring to Fateless as well. Just the city and the monsters.
So, away from video games, were there other inspirations?
Let's see. I would say music is very inspiring. I'll put on a playlist. I'll be able to write to a playlist. But aside from music, I would say that, it is very heavily inspired by video games, and the stories and the characters all come out of the various video games, not just Assassin's Creed and Prince of Persia, but the various video games that have a good story, that have characters that I really like. I'm inspired by characters and their stories. Like the Final Fantasy series, some of the characters in the Final Fantasy series. I like tragedy. So a good tragic storyline is always inspiring to me. So if a story can make me cry, it becomes an instant favorite.
Yeah, I found the ending of Final Fantasy X difficult as well. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I don't think I got through 10-2 actually, but I was happy to see it.
I just kind of watched the ending of 10-2. I found, okay, so give me the good ending of 10-2. Okay, that's
Yes.
good.
Yeah. That's why I didn't finish it, because I was too worried about not getting the good
It was
ending.
like, wait, there's the chance for a bad ending. I don't want that. Just let me see the good ending, and the good ending was adorable and perfect. So,
I would like to ask you about creating the characters. If we say the four main characters, so we've got Sparrow, we've got Halleck, we've got Kaisa, I think you might pronounce it as,
Kaisa.
and Raithe. If you can tell us about
Yes.
writing them.
So Sparrow, I'm gonna reveal another nerdy aspect of me. I play D&D, and I love D&D. Sparrow's actually one of my characters. She is a thief. She's a rogue. Yeah, so Sparrow comes right out of a D&D campaign as me. Raithe is basically every assassin in Assassin's Creed. He's got some aspects of Ezio. He's got some aspects of Altair. Yeah, Raithe is pure Assassin's Creed. Kaisa and Halleck, I love the concept of the fate chaser. He goes after his own fate. They go out to meet what fate has in store for them, as contradictory as that sounds. And he's chasing a glorious fate. But at the same time, everything that happens to him is fate. So he's very blasé about the concept of dying, because if he dies, well, that's what fate meant for him to do in the first place, and he just wants it to be something glorious. And Kaisa is, I wanted to make an aspect of this world unique. So Kaisa is an insect rider. They ride on the back of these giant beetles, and they go into battle with them, and the beetles are very much a part of their lives. And Kaisa is like the warrior of the group. Her and her beetle are the tough badasses, I suppose.
I love the bit. Well, okay, it happens during a fight, a battle, but I did love the reveal of how the huts of the Scarab clan come into being. I thought that was brilliant. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, the I don't even remember the game, but I remember there's houses on the back of this giant creature and it rises up and suddenly there's a whole city on its back. And that was just stuck with me. I'm like, that's really cool. I kind of want to do something like that. Let's plop the huts on the backs of these giant beetles, and the beetles bury themselves in the earth, and you just see the huts. And when it's time to move, they just stand up and start moving. And I thought just the thought of being on the back of this giant, of any giant creature, is just so unique and just so cool. So I had to put it in.
Yeah, no, I can't say I know which video game that is either. No, I'll have to look it up at some point. Oh, that's really cool. I'm making that you've had at least 2 of your D&D characters in your fiction, is that correct?
Yeah, yes.
That's great.
Yeah, I suppose that D&D is also part, a big inspiration for me. Aspects of our campaigns often end up in my books, bits and pieces of them. Some of my characters will make it in. So Sparrow is one, Allie is another from the Immortal Rules. Allie was part of a vampire campaign, so.
Very cool. So I'm going to stick on this subject and then go back to the characters as a whole, because you've mentioned about the fate chasing. That's something I really enjoyed learning. I think also because Halleck is kind of humorous as well. So the way he's like, oh yeah, it's all right, I'll just maybe go and die and that's fine, I kind of want to ask you more about creating this, and I suppose specifically, my idea was that Halleck was kind of like, oh, if my fate's to die, cool, I've done that, which obviously is quite shocking as a reader. Can you tell us more about the fate chasers as a people? Do they all do what Halleck does, for example? And yeah.
They do. They're scattered. There's not a whole lot of them because their idea and their methodologies are a little bit odd to people. But they're generally not a group. I mean, there's more of them, but they generally go off and do their own thing. So they wander the world. They see all the things that there is to see. It's more of an ideology than an organization. And Halleck explains to Sparrow that that's just what they do. They wander, they chase their fates, and when their fates come for them, then they know. They've lived a good life. They've met that glorious fate. And they get to see the world too. So he is the type of character who's been to so many places, more places than Sparrow could ever dream of. He knows a lot because he's been to so many places and he's learned about so many people and cultures. So he's kind of a font of information as well. In chasing his fate, he's seen so much of the world.
Yeah, so he's a good character on his own. And also, yeah, he allows you to put more into the world building through his words as well.
Mm-hmm. Even though sometimes, he'll say something and you're like, what?
Yeah.
He's more the humorous character, because he'll make an offhand comment, be like, oh, when I was in, the house in Tavina, this happened to me. And like, how do you even get into those type of situations? Well, that's just Halleck.
I'm not going to ask you on like details of the next book, obviously, because it's not out, etc. But I will say, and I don't know if anyone else listening will feel this with me, but I'm really scared you're going to kill Halleck off before the end. I am. I like him so much.
I will say nothing.
Oh no. So, yeah, I want to ask more about the group of people as a whole as well. Like, is it important to you? I believe it is, to work with an ensemble cast and have all these different people.
Yeah, I love the idea of a found family and this group of people that you just come to trust and rely on with your life, and they save you and you save them. And Sparrow starts out as very distrustful because of how she's been raised, because of what she does. Her family in Kovass, the Thieves Guild, it was their practice. It's everybody for themselves. And if you get caught, well, you weren't good enough for the Thieves Guild. So she is very distrustful, but she slowly becomes to put her faith in Halleck and Kaisa and Raithe because they show her the bonds of friendship can be stronger than anything. And her journey is one from going of this girl who doesn't really think about others. She kind of just take care of herself first. Everybody else, they also need to do the same. They have to take care of themselves, to someone who will put her life on the line for her friends. She has to get there, and it's Halleck and Kaisa and Raithe and their selflessness and bravery that show her that's the path that she needs to be on.
Yeah, I liked that so much. I liked how you had these different elements of this self-discovery for Sparrow, in that she's got a lot of work to do and progress on self-worth. And then, of course, you are showing us why, because Vaughn is doing the blame game with her. He's making her feel that she's betrayed XYZ. She feels it herself anyway. And then you've got this aspect of being selfish isn't quite the right word, but looking out for herself and not looking out for anyone else. And then obviously she's got to learn to be like that. It was really nice how you did it.
Thank you. Yeah, I had the moment where she switches is like very clear in my head. It's the moment when they're on the Strider and she runs from the monster that's attacking them, and Halleck and Kaisa and Raithe are all doing that, trying to fight it, and they tell her to run. She runs, she gets to the door, she stops, has the realization, and then makes the decision to turn back. And that is the moment where she actually, okay, I can't do this anymore. I have to step up. I have to go help them. Yeah. And that's the moment where she makes the decision to stop being a little bit less selfish.
Yeah, it's quite the movie moment. She obviously takes a while to become a bit more kind of pushy, I suppose you could say, about finding out what being fateless is and stuff. And obviously we can understand why, given all the self-worth and everything. I suppose, was it always kind of your decision to keep the concept of fatelessness from Sparrow until quite far in the book? Or did you play with including it at different times after the book, maybe in another book before you had, etc.?
I knew that it had to be kind of a secret from the beginning. One, because that's the mystery. The mystery will keep readers engaged. But Sparrow, if she knew that she had this big destiny or that she was fateless, it would either terrify her or she just wouldn't believe it. And Vaughn had reasons not to tell her, obviously, because he was going to betray her at the end. But the concept that she was fateless even when she is told that she is fateless, she just doesn't believe it for a good part of the book. One, because she puts off this air of confidence that she's the best thief in the world and, she knows how to take care of herself. She also has this crippling self-doubt about herself, and her self-worth is quite low, even though she pretends otherwise. So she can't be fateless. She's not worth it, or she's not worthy of being fateless. So how can she be fateless? And then when she finally starts accepting that she is, that's another turning point for her that she has to come to grips with. She can't sit back and do nothing now. She's destined is a weird word because she's fateless, but she's destined to do something more.
And I'm assuming, I think, with a relative amount of confidence that we're going to find out even more about being fateless and what it all means later on in the trilogy.
Yes. Yes. So when they reach, spoiler alert, when they reach the city where Raithe is from, that's when she discovers even more shocking things about herself and the Deathless and Raithe and his people and all of that. So there's more shocking things to come in book 2.
Oh, that's even more than I hoped. That's exciting. Okay. So, talking of Raithe, you've got a slow burn romance, but you certainly know when to kind of make it happen. And actually, it was quite surprising. I thought you were going to put it off for later and then actually go for it, which was a really nice, pleasant surprise. Can you just tell us about, writing this romance and any thoughts you had, plans you had with it?
It kind of developed on its own. I always kind of meant for Raithe and Sparrow to end up together. And when you first meet Raithe, he's an assassin. So when she first meets him, they kind of go from enemies to lover. He was sent to kill her, to stop things from happening, fails to do so. And then over the course of the journey, they get to know each other, and then, other things happen. But Raithe is, when you first meet him, he's this cold, emotionless assassin, but he's really the farthest thing from that. He's honorable, he feels a lot, and when he decides that he is friends with somebody, or when someone is his friend, he'll do pretty much anything to keep them alive. So he respects life. He has to take it because his queen orders him to do so, but life is sacred to him, and he just slowly falls for Sparrow, and he's probably my favorite character in the series, because I love the cold heart. I love the cold on the outside assassin, but he's really just a soft German Shepherd on the inside. So
I did like him. I think certainly. I think my heart in terms of character is with Halleck, just because I just liked who he is, and I find him funny and stuff. And how you've written the humor really works for me.
If you want to compare them to maybe another pair of characters of mine, in the past, you can compare them. So Raithe is very much Ash,
yeah,
and Halleck is very much Puck.
Yes, yes.
I've done this before.
Yeah. No, I was wondering that when I read it. I thought, But yeah, no, I think it's interesting actually you say that, because I think I liked Ash more than Puck. But I do like Halleck more than Raithe. So maybe I like everybody really at the end of it. I don't know. Okay, loved loads of things in this book. But something I just really, really grabbed hold onto, and I think I'm going to remember it long after this trilogy is over, is just the amount of world building you've done, the amount of designing this world, just the amount of time and the various way you've done it, with characters saying stuff, with the descriptions, and also the magic system is really interesting. Can you talk more about the world building and magic system?
So world building is one of my favorite things to do. I love creating a world. And for this world, I knew what I wanted. I had it in my head. Again, pointing out inspirations like Assassin's Creed, a very deserty world where there's no water, there's very little vegetation, and it had a purpose. That had a purpose because this is a destroyed world. This world was once green and beautiful, but something happened and now it's withered. There's, no life. And there's a reason for that you discover in the book, having to do with the Deathless Kings. But I wanted this world I wanted you to feel the heat and feel the emptiness. So there's two suns. When both suns get to the peak in the sky, when they're both directly overhead, it's known as demon hour. And for 1 hour, nobody moves, nobody does anything because the heat is so intense. Demon hour, everything just shuts down. That comes into play a lot. You always have to work around demon hour, you always have to be wary of the heat and the suns and the blisteringness of it. There's a scene where Halleck, Raithe, and Sparrow get trapped outside in demon hour, and it's not pleasant, and they think they're going to die, and I really wanted to bring that home. Like, if you get stuck out in demon hour and you have no shelter, you are pretty much going to burn to death. So world building was fun for me, and I wanted to, just make this world come to life in the most unpleasant way possible, I suppose. So that was world building. The magic system is a little bit different because in this world, magic can't come from nothing. Magic has to come from life. You can't use magic without taking it from somewhere else. And the prime examples of that are the Deathless Kings because they are supremely powerful, but to do any of their magic, to do their spells, their power, they are pretty much gods. They were godlike, but they took that power from the world around them, which made them terrifying because they could suck the life out of you to do something. They could suck the life out of the land, any living creature, anything that lived, from insects to humans to plants, anything that lived, they took that power to fuel their own magic. And it's the same in the world. Magic has to come from something. So in the present day world of Fateless, magic is kind of banned because it comes from life, and you have to sacrifice life to get magic. And that holds true for the Deathless Kings, that holds true for any magician, that holds true for anybody who has power. They have to take it from life itself.
I suppose that's where your kind of tragedy and stuff is coming in as well. And yeah, no, it's a very interesting magic system because, yeah, you've got this world that's obviously fantastical, but I suppose you could say it lacks magic, and then, of course, it's coming back, which is interesting. Talking of the environment, don't worry, I'm not going to ask for details because I think it might be spoilery for the next book. But can we assume that the concept for Raithe's world is going to be a little bit different?
Yes. So Raithe's world, or the place where Raithe is from, Raithe's kingdom, is ruled by a queen. And it is going to be quite different. Like, him and Sparrow talk a little bit about it on their journey. His world is green. He actually has water and plants and this flowering environment. And that's completely foreign to Sparrow because she's never seen that. But it also raises the question, well, why? Why do the Ilvan have this beautiful environment and city and kingdom when everyone else is, have to live in the desert with nothing? Everywhere else is a wasteland, but the Ilvan and Race people kind of have this oasis, and why is that? And that's a question that'll be answered in the next book.
Do you play Guild Wars 2 at all?
Guild Wars 2? Yes, I did. I did have a stint where I played Guild Wars 2. I was Necromancer.
I say that because I was seeing the Sylvari lands for the Assassin's World and the Kajai, yeah.
It's been a long time since I played Guild Wars 2. Wow, yeah. I used to play Guild Wars 2. I enjoyed it. I believe there was a desert type world there as well.
The sandstorms that are difficult to get through in Guild Wars, yeah. Talking of the religion, because I did find it fascinating, you've not only as such, in quotes, got your religion that you've made and the goddess, but then you make the variations on it, the various variations on it, depending on where people live, etc., their cultures. Can you talk about creating this religion and your writing about having a fate and linking it to your next life?
Mm-hmm. The concept of fate and the goddess of fate and the religion of surrounding this book was actually one of the most tricky things to write. Because when you talk about fate, it's such a tricky thing. It brings up so many questions. So what is fate? How do you avoid it? Can you avoid it? Or does everything you do just bring you one step closer to meeting that fate? And if it's your fate to be this way, what about free will? What happens to that? Do we have free will, or is it just all up to fate? So it was very tricky trying to balance that concept. So what I came up with in Kovass, where Sparrow is from, they believe that everybody has a fate, and whatever fate decides for you, that is your place in the tapestry of the world and the story of the world. And You have to do as well as you can in the role fate has decided for you, and maybe in the next life your fate will be different. Your fate will be better. So if you are born to be a thief, you can't be anything else. You have to be the best thief you can be. If you are born to be a pauper, you can't be anything else. You can't rise to be a king. You can't rise to be anything. You have to be a pauper. But that's true of Kovass in Sparrow City. There are other concepts, like the Ilvan, Raithe's people believe that fate is more of a tree. It grows and the branches kind of spread off into different paths, but sometimes you have to clip the bad branches to make the tree flourish. Halleck has a very nonchalant way of looking at fate. He's like, well, whatever fate has decided for you, that's cool, but your life is your own. Live your life and meet fate as it comes. So all the different ideas of fate and what fate actually is, they're all very different. And Sparrow is a little shell-shocked when she leaves Kovass because she only had one idea of fate. And it's Halleck who says, hey, you know what? Fate hasn't really decided you be whatever you want. And that's very shocking to her to hear that, because she was a thief and that's what fate decided for her. She can't be anything else until that belief is actually challenged a little bit later on. But yeah, the concept of fate, it was very tricky to work with. And even now, I have to balance the, fateless, free will, and, what your fate ultimately is going to be. And it's a kind of a delicate balancing act to work with.
Obviously, I don't know exactly where you're going for the next two books, but I'm just seeing so much scope. Like, I know with the Iron Fae, you've written from different points of view, etc. You've done the different series. I'm just seeing you've possibly got that here going on. Yeah.
I think it's going to be Sparrow's story, so she will be the narrator for the next two books. But where she ends up, who knows?
I think I'm just really, obviously, again, I don't know if you're going to cover it, and maybe you won't, maybe you will, but it makes me want to know what happens in the afterlife, I suppose, what happens after death. Did you consider killing anyone else off from, like, the main cast beside Jiren? Because, I mean, maybe it's down to my recent reading, but I was pleasantly surprised by the end of your book that everyone is safe and accounted for. And I just wondered if you had played around with the idea of not everyone being okay and stuff like that.
If you know me and you've read any of my books, and you know that my favorite quote is "Your tears feed my muse," and I love an ultimate noble sacrifice. And I won't say I like killing off characters, but when the book calls for it, I will, because if you could make people get attached to a character and then make them cry when they ultimately die, then you've done your job as a writer well. I will say I do not like killing off characters for no reason. There is always a reason. I will never do it just for shock value. If a character has to die, there is always a reason, and it's probably going to be an ultimate noble sacrifice and a big turning point in the book. So I can't say anything about the characters in the next two books, but it's not impossible. And yes, I have thought about character death, if I'm going to do it in this series or not.
Yeah, I think there came a point where I was just reading Halleck, and I think he's been rather surprised that he's still around. And I was wondering if maybe at some point he wanted to go almost, didn't he, just to have a fate. And yeah, I think that's where I started thinking about that from. This is something because I've talked to someone recently, Samantha Sotto Yambao, about like different areas of her story where I know that I thought maybe the story was ended, and then she later said to me, oh yeah, I did consider it ending there and there and there. And I had something similar with your book, which is why I wanted to ask you as well, where I thought first that the story was going to be a lot about Sparrow in the Undercity finding the stone that she does. And then you go to something else. I was like, okay, this is going to be more of the story. And you were constantly surprising with speeding that bit up, and in a way that all worked, don't get me wrong. But I suppose what I want to ask is, did you have any other plans for the ending of this specific book? Like, if it might end at a different place, or, for example, it ends leaving the Scarab clan. Did you ever consider ending it at a different spot, whether before, after, anything like that?
I did, actually. It was supposed to end with them reaching Irica, reaching the city where Raithe's people are, and then the massive revelation at the end was supposed to be at the end of the first book. Unfortunately, I kind of ran out of words and room. And I'm like, I am 100,000 words into this book. I kind of need to end it. So that's me being a little bit naive in how long it was going to take them. I didn't anticipate the battle at the end with the Scarab clan taking so long, or actually being there at all. When you're writing, you have a goal in mind. But sometimes when you're writing, your characters just go off on a path and you kind of look down and you're like, how did we get here? This was not anticipated. But that's kind of what happened. Was they were on their way to Irica. Something happened. They had to go off to the Scarab clan territory, and then that was the end of the book. And I was like, okay, not intended, but it works. And we'll just have the big revelation at the beginning of the next book. So yes, I did anticipate it ending a little bit differently, but I think it still works.
Yeah, no, absolutely it does. So you've kind of got some of the work of book 2, you already had it there, completely written and stuff to go with.
If anyone is listening and, the beginning of book 2, there is a massive revelation that was supposed to happen at the end of book 1, but you get to experience it in book 2, so...
And actually, you said about the Scarab Clan battle, the battle there. I liked it. I thought it went very quickly. The pacing was good. Yeah.
I needed a conclusion with Vaughn and Sparrow. So Vaughn was the villain of this book. And I had to have kind of a wrap up with him and Sparrow at the very end. I mean, it would feel incomplete otherwise. It wouldn't feel like a whole book. It would just feel like a big lead up to the next book. So I needed Vaughn and Sparrow to have their clash and for Sparrow to realize something about herself and about Vaughn, and that had to be wrapped up in the first book. So that's also a reason why I brought in the battle with Vaughn and the evil undead things at the end of the first book.
Okay. I suppose I can see where you're going with the Deathless King and stuff like that. But there is a lot of scope again on this point of the bad guy or the lesser bad guy in the next books. Okay, the question, what can you tell us at this point about book 2, maybe that you haven't said already? Or...
Well, that there is a big discovery at the beginning of book 2 involving Raithe and his city and his people and the queen. And then I will say the romance between Sparrow and Raithe, it's book 2. In book 2, you kind of have to break your characters. So this is why book 2s are considered bridge books. So book 1 is the beginning. You meet the characters, you start the journey, you get to know them. Book 3, typically in a trilogy, is the end. You wrap everything up. Everything comes to a head. There's the big battle. There's the wrap up. There's the happily ever after or not. But everything is done in book 3 of a trilogy. In book 2, a lot of times when people say second book syndrome, it means, nothing really happens because nothing can't. You can't resolve the story in book 2. And new problems must arise in book 2 to keep things interesting. So this is the book where I often tell people you have to break your characters. Your characters have to stumble into new problems about themselves, stumble into new problems about themselves and their relationships. And this is typically when the love interest and the hero or heroine have their issues. They run into problems. They find something about each other or discover something about each other that causes them problems in the second book. And you can see this in many, many trilogies. So Raithe and Sparrow have problems at the beginning of the second book. The things that she discovers in the Ilvan city kind of drives a wedge between her and Raithe's relationship because they care very much about each other, but that discovery is so shocking and she suddenly can't trust him anymore. And that kind of happens in the second book. So they have to work through that, and whether or not they can come to some sort of recognition is up in the air for a while. There's also a quest that they have to go on for a very important thing, and getting there is going to be challenging, of course, but there's also a new character in book 2. They meet a new character who joins their party, and I'm really excited because he is probably my second favorite character after Raithe. So, spoilers for book 2, huge, massive spoilers. This new character Do you know what a jerboa is?
I don't think so.
All right, so look up jerboa, a longer jerboa. Basically, that is the character of book 2. A larger, talking, intelligent jerboa. There's an entire race of them. And they really are that cute. They're one of my favorite desert animals. But yeah, there's a new character that joins their party, and I really love him. And he's going to bring so much into the story. But yeah, there's battles, there's, relationship drama, and a big secret that is revealed.
Well, I was very happy when Kaiser joined the crew. I was there thinking, please let her join. Please let her join. Please let her join. So I'm sure I feel the same way about the new character. That's really fun. But that is interesting that not so much that you're going to make a conflict in the romance, because I completely understand why you're doing that. But the situation that's going to cause that is something I'm really looking forward to reading about. These other books in the trilogy, you say it's just going to feature Sparrow. There's not going to be other points of view in there. It's literally just Sparrow?
Yes, for the foreseeable, unless something changes, because the second book is Sparrow's point of view, and I literally just finished that one. I have yet to write the third one yet, but it's probably going to be Sparrow's point of view.
Julie, thank you so much for being here today. I think it's obvious, I have enjoyed Fateless so much. And yeah, seeing where the trilogy is going to go is going to be a delight. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
I do hope you enjoyed this episode. Do join me next time. And if you have a moment to spare, please do leave a rating and/or review of this podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or Podcast Addict. Thank you. Authors Afterword episode 129 was recorded on the 19th of May and published on the 22nd of September 2025. Music and production by Charlie Place.